how it looked when I first started was I had a laptop, like a Mac laptop, with the white ones, the one that like doesn't look as nice as the ones now, and just had a little M box. It's this little interface that records 2 channels at once, and so I remembered I would set up 2 microphones on the drums and just record that, and then we'd set up the bass and I'd record that, and then the guitars, and then I'd just record it all track by track into my little computer with headphones, and it didn't sound good, obviously, but I would have to take it out to my car and listen to see, oh, does this sound like anything that I love, and go back and forth and just do that game. And I tried my hardest, and it never really ended up sounding amazing, but it got me started, you know, just on my little laptop. There was a kind of switch in my mind that went off where I realized that I never would get a job doing this. I would have to create it myself. So like the whole entrepreneurship thing really sparked in me, and I realized that I don't get a job doing this. I am the guy doing this, and I have to bring the work to me. And so as soon as I realized that, I basically reached out to like literally 100 bands in San Diego on MySpace back in the day. And just, I was working out of a pretty awesome studio, not as awesome as this one, but was working out of a cool studio, and of course everybody wants to be in the studio, so I'd offer them this crazy discount to come in, and that's where I really learned to kind of go from amateur to semi-pro. And then once you're doing really good work at the semi-pro level, word gets out, and so then you start working with pro people. And so once you work with like the first couple really well-known artists, like I got to work with Chicago, Cheap Trick, a couple of those guys, kind of the older generation. You know, you can kind of add that to your resume, and then you go, oh my gosh, I worked with those guys, and then that adds social proof and social credibility. You know you're doing something right, and people, you know, like working with you at the end of that point. I think excellence really like got drilled into me. Like nothing can come out of these doors or out of these speakers unless it's excellent. And so I just had to learn how to be excellent in my craft, and I also needed to learn that there aren't going to be any handouts, that you kind of have to you have to do the 12-14 hour days for the first couple of years, and I did. And that's kind of how you at least get to square one. That's like hygiene standard for this industry, is you kind of have to put in your hours, you know. One thing that I'm really proud of is I've been able just to master like 10,000 or so, or 10,000 plus artists in the course of a few years from all over the world. So I've got to like really see, you know, the whole spectrum of talent, I guess. So that's been really amazing that many people have trusted me with their music is really cool. Like aside from the people I've worked with or whatever it may be, that I think is something I'm most excited about. Even though you're doing what you love, even though you're doing, you know, your passion and that's your work and all that, that isn't ultimately going to be the most satisfying thing of all time. Like there are things that transcend your work, you know, like reasons why you work, not, you know, you don't work because you love your work necessarily. You'll just get in a feedback loop of that. But yeah, that doesn't solve all your life's problems. There are so many other things way more important. And during those times when I was working those 12-hour days, I got to a place where I said I can't do this anymore, because I wanted to see my family. I had other things that transcend that, and so you have to have a balance, you know, to where you can't find your identity in any of what you do, even if you are good at it or even if you have experienced success, because it's all fleeting. It'll all eventually go away, and hopefully I'll be able to do this forever. But yeah, I ultimately don't find my ultimate pleasure like 100% in my work, you know, because whatever you put in, you won't get back what you think you'll get back, you know. It's enjoyable and it's amazing, but it won't ultimately satisfy you. The first thing is just know your expectations. Even though you're really good at what you do, and you may be going to school for it or whatever, that doesn't necessarily guarantee, one, success, or two, even that you get to work in this industry. And then two is be really, really, really good at what you do. There's no room for mediocrity. Number three, the whole notion of get educated formally and hopefully somebody will honor that, just throw that all away. In this world, it's all about who you know, what you can do, the connections, and making it on your own as an entrepreneur than it is getting a job somewhere. So if you aren't an entrepreneur and you can't, like, you're not a go-getter or you're not a starter, then no matter how good you are at audio, it's going to be very difficult for you to get into the industry. So all of those things combined, if you like mix that up, there's a good chance that you would at least be working in the industry, but ultimately right place, right time as well is what really leads you to like success, and you're a top guy doing this or top girl doing this. And so that's just mainly just knowing what you're getting into, you know.